Policymaking, Unit 6. What is public policy? Policymaking. Who influences public policies? Go back to your notes. We discussed this on the chapter for national government. Policymaking is government problem solving. When government officials decide on a course of action, either by passing laws or taking other official actions, they are setting public policy. They do not do this in isolation. Individuals have some input as well as the media and special interest groups. Make sure you copy the chart, please. Policy making on a personal level. What are some policies set by your family to solve family problems? Identify and explain 2 family policies. Be prepared to share this with the class. We're going to have a Socratic seminar next class, so this may be one of the things covered there. I know, for instance, one of our family policies is that every Sunday we have dinner together. That's so everyone actually sits at the same table, and it's something that is mandatory. Therefore, none of my children are able to go out on that evening. Family policies relate to beliefs, values, and goals of the family. The same can be said for government policies. The media and policy making. The media plays an important role in setting the public agenda. It focuses public attention on selected issues. The issue that the media is really focusing on right now is the Affordable Health Care Act. It offers a forum in which opposing viewpoints are communicated. For instance, through debates, there are different news stations, liberal and conservative viewpoints, and then you also have the moderate viewpoints. It holds government officials accountable to the public. How? Interest groups in public policy. To identify the issues, make political contributions. They lobby government officials. What is lobbying?
A phenomenon that has grown larger and more important to Congress over the years is the work of special interest groups and their lobbyists.
The term lobbyist, I think, is derived from the practice of those who were seeking to influence legislators of gathering in the lobby outside the legislative chambers so that they would have access to the members of the legislative body.
When America's founders wrote the Constitution in the late 1700s, they wanted the members of Congress to represent the people. But the world has changed since the late 1700s. One critic of the way modern government operates said that today, congressmen do not represent the people, but rather special interests. Not everyone agrees with that view, but most people agree that special interest groups and their lobbyists exercise considerable influence over Congress.
The term special interest group is a term that's become familiar in our political discourse. It's often used in a pejorative sense to imply somebody who wants something that they shouldn't be getting, or somebody who wants something that they want simply for their own selfish reasons. But I think it's important to realize that while there are, of course, people who are interested in politics because of their own selfish ends to advance their own business interests or that sort of thing, there are plenty of people who organize themselves into groups, we might call them special interest groups, who are trying to do the public good.
Under our Constitution, all the people have a right to petition the Congress for a redress of grievances. And that's what lobbying is.
Actually, lobbyists are probably one of the most informed people on Capitol Hill. They know their information is accurate. Probably the biggest exchange of ideas goes on between a lobbyist and members of Congress. Yes, they're there to persuade, but they're there to inform as well.
Of course, in the history of our country, there have been many significant groups who have lobbied the Congress for fundamental change in the country. The civil rights movement was a grassroots movement, but it's also a lobbying movement where individuals came to Washington to persuade members of Congress to enact the civil rights laws that we have today. The movement for women's suffrage was also a movement that lobbied the Congress. And there are countless examples of lobbying efforts that have had a tremendous impact on the politics of the nation.
James Madison, the father of the Constitution, said, "Liberty is to faction what air is to fire." In other words, a free society fuels and nurtures politically active special interest groups. Until recent years, national policymaking was dominated by a few well-organized, well-financed groups: farm, labor, business, veterans, and medical interests. The current era has seen an explosion in the growth and diversity of interest groups, including narrow-based groups that focus on single issues, such as abortion or gun control.
Any organized interest in this country is most likely represented here in Washington.
American people want to know what Congress is doing. More than 2,500 members of the Capitol Press Corps watch and report. Correspondents from newspapers, magazines, radio, and television regularly attend House and Senate sessions. There are studios next to the House and Senate floor where members of the press can conduct radio and TV interviews. Proceedings of the House have been televised since 1979 on C-SPAN, the cable public affairs network.
How much medical reason is there to believe that this procedure, whoever is supplying it, a private company or not, is going to help whatever's wrong with it? Okay.
In 1986, the Senate authorized gavel-to-gavel television coverage of its proceedings on C-SPAN. A huge array of congressional information is available free at internet sites operated by the federal government. All three branches of government maintain web pages.
Congress debates and lobbying reform comprehension. What specific part of the Constitution protects lobbying? What are some pros and cons of interest groups lobbying? What reforms do lobbying in the Senate do you agree with? What are earmarks? How do earmarks relate to interest groups and lobbying? Individuals in policymaking. How do we participate in politics? How do we express our opinions? How do we join interest groups? The truth. Most government solutions involve time and money, and it is not possible to do all things that are needed or wanted in a community. Individuals and interest groups try to convince government officials that their problems and/or solutions are important.